I worked on the MH-60 Romeo, the sub hunters. I was stationed in Mayport, Florida. It's about 20 miles east of Jacksonville. Oh, Des Moines all the way. I can't, it's not even a competition. I grew up in Arizona, so I'm used to the dry kind of temperature, right? So I went to Florida. I got a whole bunch of humidity, more than I was ready to handle. So came up to Des Moines. It's humid, but it's nice. You get 4 seasons. The only person who said they enjoy living in Florida were the people who lived there all their lives. It's very meticulous. You're working, granted, you're working for the U.S. government, so everything has to be done a certain way. There's a saying you'll hear a lot from veterans of the hurry up and wait statements. There's your CO wants you there at 9 o'clock, so the XO wants you there at 8:30, and then your divisional officer, so on and so forth, sort of thing. You get to your job, you get to the hangar. Hey, we need this ready by 10 o'clock. All right, great. We'll be there at 9 o'clock. No, we need you there at 8:30, sort of thing. It's imperative that you get used to the hurry up and wait mentality so that you can create a plan and adjust accordingly. I was a technician, so again, I enjoy solving puzzles. I enjoy understanding how things operate. I take stuff apart when I shouldn't, like my engine sometimes. I saw a job as an opening for UPS. I was like, either that's a really good mailing program or something I've never done before. So I talked to Gary Cardinal, who was my manager at the time. He walked me through the process. He explained what the equipment was. Sounded pretty cool. So I went through Indeed. I put in my application, took the test, and then the rest was history from there. I feel as a technician, 90% of your job is essentially recreating an issue, and how you recreate the issue tells you how to solve it. I forget the name of the law, but it's if you write down the problem, you've already solved 50% of it. I feel like that's something I learned in the Navy. And a more textbook example, wiring schematics, understanding of energy, Ohm's law, a bunch of electrical theory knowledge helped out a lot when transitioning into this job. And it was just more so learning the specifics about the equipment I was on. Don't mean to brag, I was in the Navy, so everyone talks about military grade, right? So what that means is that we bought from the lowest bidder probably 25 years ago, and now we have to maintain that equipment that has been maintained by somebody who's paid fairly enough to maintain it to do their job, so you follow up after them and your equipment is always failing. When I heard that Mitsubishi had openings, I was really ecstatic because I was like, all right, cool, we're going to work brand new equipment. And I can tell you this is some of the nicest pieces of equipment I've ever worked on. It's always clean. Its schematics are always straightforward. I mean, I have less information on the equipment as is 7 months in as I did 5 years in the Navy, of course, but I can look at a schematic for this equipment and immediately know where something is. Definitely diverse. Everybody has knowledgeable 100%, but I like to mess around with Jason because he's one of our older techs, and I'll sit there and just make crack jokes about him, and he'll call me the stupid little new guy because I'm the youngest one in the Canada Plains region. You have Chang Kim, who's a very knowledgeable technician, very good at instructing. You have Lino, who's a phenomenal tech himself. He trained me on exactly how to use PQMs. Justin North, but there's only good things I can say about them. Only bad thing is that they're all like 500 miles away from me. Overall, it's a pretty great team. Take your time. Our equipment operates as it's advertised to. It's going to make adjustments, it's going to change, but it's going to do what it's supposed to. And if it doesn't, we're always going to be here in earshot to come and fix it. They plan on everything going right the first time. And just, especially with commission, you can't make that assumption, because when you have equipment that we don't work on, or you have several vendors working on, there's always going to be an issue somewhere. There's always going to be something that gets missed, right? As long as we're going through the proper channels, as long as we're being that extra step of safety, everyone's fine. At the end of the day, no one gets hurt. It's a good day. And then we can focus on the equipment. I find that when we plan for the best case scenario, more things get missed, and we get into this whole rush mentality. It's wasting more time trying to do things faster rather than being safe, getting a plan, having a full understanding of what we're doing prior to starting it. Again, there is nothing wrong with how the general contractor or the facility manager handles it and how their outlook is. It's more so just a matter of their lack of, I wouldn't say education, but just the general knowledge of the equipment we're meant to maintain. You can just start out with contamination. We've had contamination from metal shavings that are falling into wire enclosures. So 480 with metal shavings is a very bad mixture. So you want to talk about maintenance beforehand, generally just general inspections, general short checks. All this stuff is meant to be more of a safety barrier and less of kind of just looking good. And you can tell when a program is well based on how safety comes in a priority. You're doing short checks on equipment. You're verifying there's no forms of contamination. You're verifying all the qualified personnel are working on it. If they're not, there was a qualified person doing it. That way we have a redundancy of avoiding blind leading blind. We have a redundancy of standards. We have a redundancy of reliability from our techs at that point. Fixing an issue. So I'll give you a specific example. We had just began a startup on a piece of equipment, had it on for 10 seconds and immediately hit us with an over temperature. I can tell you it was negative 28 that day. The equipment inside was 65 degrees because it's an instrument control. So immediately your first thought is, okay, it's not over temp. Something's just not correct. So, get to looking around. What is overtemp responsible for? Me and it was Jason Swiftward. We were both looking at it. We pull out this fuse and we have little thermal fuses. Pops, it opens the circuit and it tells the equipment, hey, I've overtemped. Replace the fuse and inspect me. But we had spent probably 3 or 4 hours troubleshooting this, everything. We found the fuse, we swapped it out. We were all excited, proud of ourselves. We turned it on and then we got another overtemp. And me and Jason kind of just look at each other. Turned out we just had a disconnected cable. So learning the ability to laugh at mistakes and learning the ability to understand what you're looking at is vital to this position, but the most rewarding aspect is understanding it enough to know how to fix it. I was not ready for that. So I'm going to say nay. And the only reason I say nay is because I'm not in boot camp anymore. But here's a funny kicker. I wearing socks to bed is a crime. All right. Anybody who disagrees with me needs to be investigated respectfully. In boot camp, you have everything. It's attention to detail. So your bed needs to be made at 45-degree angles at each corner. You need to have 2 inches of your cover folded over. The way you can keep from making a mess of your bed in boot camp is you just wear what are called Smurfs, which is just a sweatpants and a sweatshirt, and you wear socks. So you're staying warm, but you're not messing up your bed. So when you get up, you can just make minor adjustments. Easy peasy, right? After boot camp, I just went back to my old ways. Nope, if you wear socks to bed, you're evil. I can't trust you. No, absolutely not. Hot sauce, I understand. So I watch a lot of anime. So it's a Japanese style cartoon. So I got used to watching stuff with subtitles. But, I mean, I don't know. You ask anyone in the Navy, we all have hearing damage. So if you don't have subtitles, I just assume you're not in the Navy. If you don't need subtitles, I'm envious of you. If you do have subtitles, it's normal. You mean chicken nuggets? We'll say yay. I like to dip those in ranch. Those are pretty good. Oh, love it. Like when I was bulking for football season in high school, it was crunchy peanut butter and chocolate chips in a sandwich. It's not a question. If you put pineapple on pizza, we can't talk. There's nothing that we'll ever agree on. You could say the most in-touch truthful thing, and I would think you're wrong because you like pineapple on pizza. Oh, Avatar: The Last Airbender, hands down. Me, my sisters would sit down and watch it. We rewatched the same episode because it was on Netflix in the earlier days. So we sit there and just watch that because we didn't have cable. We had a Wii and just watch Netflix. Pickled pig feet, and absolutely not. It was among the worst things I've ever tried. So my dad had a running gag. He'd say, "Oh, we're gonna have pickled pig feet for dinner," and we all, haha, it's funny. Dad's saying the most gross thing. And one night, he was working with one of his Mexican coworkers, and they had pickled pig feet. He was like, "Hey, let me take some of those home for my kids." Tells us it tastes like chicken, and the dumb kid that I was like, a lot of things taste like chicken, so he's probably right. Tried it, ended up spending the next 3 hours heaving because it was just the most disgusting thing I've ever had. I'm a very patriotic person. I think that I live in the greatest nation on earth, and that's not me saying that there isn't issues, because there are many issues wrong with this country, but I think that day in and day out, I am thankful to be an American, and I can hope that I can assist in making it a better place every day. Life moves in cycles. You can focus on the good or you can focus on the bad. If you look for the light, you will find it. If you look for darkness, it's all you'll ever see. Especially in the Navy, you lose a lot of communication with family. You lose a lot of friends because you're remote at that point. Over COVID, you just lost communications just in general. It's really a mind game, and it's a lot easier to say than it is to do. I'm not going to be ignorant of that fact, but at the end of the day, you have a choice. And if you are at the point where you can't make that choice, maybe just take a step back, because there's nothing that's that important that you need to sacrifice yourself or your mentality for.